looks like they're about ready to start, so I'm pretty excited to see how this one goes down. Interested to see if the fans do get it right with RayAllen with his 50, was it 57% there?
It was 55, I believe.
55, so he's going to lead with a hunter and no real clue there, though it looks, there's no real clue there. I suppose the Eagle Horn Bow could be a sign. Oh, there we go, Piloted Shredder, so it's going to be some sort of mid-range, most likely. And it's
Right.
against the Secret Pally.
Yep, against that Secret Paladin with an Elder Peacekeeper, which is not always seen in Secret Paladin. So we could be seeing more of a mid-range focused version of Secret Paladin. We've actually seen a mid-range Paladin, or excuse me, a Secret Paladin that was extremely mid-range before, with double Zombie Chow, had Aldors, had Keepers, well, I think maybe less Keepers, double Sledge Belchers, stuff like that. So we could be
Yeah, I
seeing
think there
this
was a
out
keeper in that build with the outdoors, I seem to remember.
right. And yeah, like you mentioned, with the Pilot Shredder coming into the hand of RayAllen, that probably means it's going to be mid-range, though. Back when Hunter was a bit more popular, we saw builds where, you just throw in a Pilot Shredder to make the Face Hunter that much more annoying to deal with, but probably not going to be the case this time.
And we see that Aldor as well, that keeper as well. So this is going to be one way to build the Secret Pally that seems to be getting favoured in China is to make sure that you're ahead on turn 6, and you do that with the Aldor, with the keeper, and so on, rather than going flat out aggression. And he seems to be going for that. He's got the Mysterious Challenger, so if he can get that board, it will be difficult to get through.
Right. So this is really tough, right? Because he's going second, which means that you want to coin into the Mysterious Challenger, but not going to be able to do so here. And he's basically setting himself up, speaking of LovelyChook here, he's setting himself up to go for more of kind of a Tempo Aldor here and just, take away the power of something like that Knife Juggler that we see in the hand of RayAllen. Interesting that he didn't actually play out the Knife Juggler first. He could have gotten some knives off there. Bit of a quick play here by RayAllen. Maybe he's starting to feel the pressure.
Yeah, something we've noticed across all of these casts since we're doing the Chinese stuff in about 6 months now. And with any players, really, when they start playing quickly, it's usually a sign of pressure and so on. What do you think about having Finley in mid-range hunter? Like one of the win conditions is that hero power that we've now taken away. Obviously, you get the warlock power you sustain, but what else could it be used for?
Well, yeah, I think you're just trying to have a little bit more flexibility. Obviously, a lot of your creatures are able to deal that damage, but sometimes your hero power can feel like it's not really affecting anything if you're just getting your opponent lower and lower, and you don't really have the time to fit it in. And fitting it in doesn't really help you too much in a lot of circumstances because you're not developing the board. So affecting the board probably is what RayAllen's trying to go for here. Wants to have a hero power that can affect the board, whether it be mage or druid or something like that.
Yeah, because you have a choice. You're going to get one of the 3 pin classes or warlock in your Finley nearly all of the time there, with 4 options out of 8 and only having to choose one, of course. So that makes sense to me. It just seems a little bit weird, that's all. As hunter, traditionally you're sort of looking at your opponent starting on 24 life because of your hero power, but like you say, it doesn't actually do anything, and a lot of these matches now are board fights. Secret Paladin in particular, this exact matchup is a board fight.
Right. And LovelyChook really, with a tough decision there, wanted to go on curve with the Elder Peacekeeper. By playing the Knife Juggler out right now, he's kind of playing off curve for a while. He could play the Eldor now, but obviously you're kind of floating 2 mana twice in a row. Or he picks up a Shredder, so that's nice as well. And one thing, however, that has affected this game a lot is that Finley Murgleton now that it's hit the board, LovelyChook doesn't really have to worry about his health total, so he can just basically throw minions on the board like this Pilot Shredder and not worry about the opponent's Pilot Shredder hitting his face.
Yeah, it's definitely defined the role in the matchup for both players as well, because obviously with the Warlock power, you're just going to draw card after card, so it puts a bit of a clock on the Paladin in a different way. It puts the clock on his board rather than on his life total. And so RayAllen now going to have to just try and keep things around level and draw his way into victory. But this hand from LovelyChook is going to draw a lot of cards with his Challenger, with the secrets. It's going to make the Owl come down just to deal with the Avenge, most likely. And then he's going to have to try and tidy up without taking too much damage. He is on 29, so he has got the chance to do that.
Right. Well, one thing for RayAllen here is that with that hero power, he's allowed to not have to weave it in, if that makes any sense, right? He can just go for Lothar right here, just play the most expensive thing in your hand, just play everything out, and when you run out of cards, you play it like a zoo, and you don't really worry about running out of cards, which is what he could go for here. But it looks like he's going to go try to control the board. Definitely makes sense to use the Owl right now. Obviously, Owl is going to be useful later, almost guaranteed. But if you get the board now, then maybe you won't need the Owl as badly.
Yep, very interesting decision, and it makes a lot of sense. I also suspect that LovelyChook is lacking something. I mean, he's got a great hand here. He'll have Boom in there. He'll have Tyrion. I don't think he'd drop those. But he might be lacking the Ragnaros finisher and that sort of stuff that we see for a lot of these days, with these extra outdoors and extra keepers in the deck.
Right, we'll have to
have
see.
To drop something.
Well, he could just be playing this extremely greedy, right? You never know. But we'll keep an eye on that, see what happens with that. Looks like it's probably going to be double Animal Companion here. Misha comes out with the first one. Not really sure what he wants, to be honest. Actually, all of them are kind of reasonable here, which is kind of the power of Animal Companion, right? No matter what you get, it's pretty good. It's good for its price. And just gonna be Huffer hitting the face.
I think he'll be very happy with that mix there, actually. The Huffer to the face for the 4 and the Misha for some sort of defense. Probably around what he would have wanted. But like you say, Leok would have been good enough as well to buff up the Shredder, give it a bit of sustain. And we see the 4 secrets there. No surprise there. He's only drawn 1 in this whole game.
Kill command comes in hand. That's very, very good for RayAllen. He's going to need burst because he doesn't have that hero power. Probably just going to see a tap, and I imagine just everything going to face here. Tap into that Lotheb.
And that's not the worst drop for him either, as it happens. It usually is, but as a 4-1 here, Paladin doesn't have the greatest ways to deal with that always when it's got to get through Amisha to get there. Depends if he's playing Consecration or not, I suppose. A lot of them don't anymore.
Even a quick shot, that's amazing. And he can drop this Lotheb and not have to worry about Consecration, which is huge because Consecration would be absolutely devastating to this board.
Yeah, he's got something like 8, 13. He's got 16 in hand. He can play the Lotheb, and he can just sort of go face and should be okay now from his side. And
I'm kind of curious about that trade. Perhaps he's worried about something like a Cog Hammer like we see in LovelyChook's hand. He could use that Cog Hammer, throw in that... but the thing is that I feel like the defender would have made the same trade anyway. Maybe a bit too safe from RayAllen here. This can happen in the late stages of tournaments where you feel like, I don't want to get punished,
Especially when all your guys are on 1 toughness, which doesn't make any real difference here, as we can see. But maybe he did just want to defend that 4-1 a little bit from his face taking it. But then he'd go for Lotheb anyway. So perhaps that's it. Perhaps there's a 5-1 and a 4-1 there. Perhaps he just wanted to make sure that he couldn't finish it with his face. Although,
by the way, we see LovelyChook reaching for this Cog Hammer. What would you rather have, a 9-4 Divine Shield or a 9-8?
I'd rather have the 9-4 Divine Shield, I think, in this position.
Okay,
it makes no difference here, right?
Well, it makes a bit of a difference, particularly if he went for the kill on the Lotheb, because that would be less damage he would take.
I guess if there's a second Owl, it could be still shrunk as a 9-8, but as a 9-4, you'd lose the shield and the buff.
See,
pretty close.
If RayAllen had gone to face this past turn, obviously he didn't. Maybe LovelyChook doesn't use his face, but he kind of has to. Then RayAllen would have had lethal here. This is why I feel like putting pressure on the face would have been a bit better in this situation.
Yeah, and now he's going to probably have to quick shot the 9-8.
You might even use Kill Command. You might even use Kill Command actually because it's a bit more expensive.
So does he want to draw a card with his hero power, or does he want to draw it sort of naturally by
just quick shot the face anyway, or something? But if you don't draw direct damage and your opponent is able to stabilize, which could happen with this Tyrion, then you could find yourself in a really sticky situation.
And he knows that Tyrion's got to be likely, as there's cards been sitting. He'll think that first mysterious challenger is probably Tyrion.
Right.
So he'll accidentally get it right.
The other question is, do you quickshot this mysterious challenger to keep your Lotheb on the board potentially? Dr. Boom, by the way, is a really nice pickup, but it's a good thing he didn't tap because he wouldn't have been able to play it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
Dr. Boom. The Boombot's got to give him at least a chance to win this game.
Right. Yeah. The big question is, can this Tyrion hold off what's going to come out of RayAllen here?
He might be able to because of the 5 damage. So if you can get RayAllen down to 12 and get that Ashbringer, for instance, is one of the things he'll be trying to set up. So do 12 and then do the last 5 with the Ashbringer.
And Mad Science is actually a good pickup here. You just wanted something to play. You didn't want to have to tap. And you're definitely playing Dr. Boom. So this is actually really nice for him. So, what can you do here if you are LovelyChook? Unfortunately, we cannot read the Chinese there, so we don't know what that trap is. Most likely going to be freezing trap, I would surmise.
Yeah. Although it could be. I mean, we've seen Chinese players mix it up, and tournament players in general mix it up just to, if you know your opponent's playing freezing trap all the time, and you suddenly throw in a bear trap or something really strange,
right?
Or dart trap or something out of the blue, it can just win you a game randomly.
Exactly. So what kind of attack are we going to see here? I feel like LovelyChook has to just go to the face, right?
Yeah, he's loading up the board to try and make these boombots do...
Right. Actually, this makes sense as well, because if you allow your opponent to use the boombots themselves, then maybe RayAllen could attack in first, so...
Why wouldn't you play the Secret Keeper first here?
There really is no reason. It's just...
He's seeing something we're not, because he obviously saw it, he hovered over it like 4 times.
I think that he's just lost himself the game.
And it actually is the bear trap.
Right. So that's just going to be game, isn't it?
It looks that way.
He's at 4 health and there's 5 damage on the field and he has no taunts.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see like... I'm so used to the likes of sort of like China YLD, who concedes the second that it's all over. That was really strange.
To be fair, I mean, those are the hardest turns, right? When you're staring at a board that is affected by the RNG of what could happen out of those boombots, for instance, and also you don't know what kind of trap it is. When there's multiple things that you don't know what's going to happen, it makes playing the turn really difficult there. So, I mean, LovelyChook kind of wilted a bit, but definitely understandable.
Yeah, when that rope starts going and you've planned 2 different routes in your head, and you're trying to weigh up which is the best, and they all involve... this might hit me in the face for lethal.
Right.
It's very difficult to pick the correct route in that time pressure. It is only 70 seconds, which is actually a lot less than most people think it is. And yeah, it's just difficult to weigh it all up and then balance it against another one and clearly remember the 2 things you just worked out at the same time.
Exactly. And you saw him trying to put everything on the board, and for a second, he's like, okay, I'll put this on, I'll flood the board. And then he started making his turn. He didn't realize he couldn't put the last minion on the board. He set it for the secret, realized it was neither freezing nor snakes. And then from there, his mind started racing. He didn't play the secret keeper until later, and things just
the
fell
4
over.
went to the Tyrion was a big deal there as well when you were in a hurry.
Exactly.
So it is Conquest, so we do see him run his secrets back out again.
Yep. And this is a very good matchup. And we see Zoo actually out of RayAllen, which is a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, that surprises me for sure. Not something I'd have expected from him because it means his lineup is basically all aggro or very aggressive at least. Maybe the Paladin is Murlocs.
Well, considering that he's running mid-range, I mean, if you look at it, Zoo is kind of mid-rangey too. Mm-hmm. So this is an interesting decision, right? Because it's hard to construct a lineup where one thing doesn't get destroyed by mid-range.
Yes, so maybe he's gone for 4 mid-rangers, because Secret Paladin can be any build you like these days. Maybe he's gone for 4 mid-rangers, and he's just going to say, right, I'm going to let my skill carry me through this event rather than line up.
Exactly. So, obviously we can't know what the Paladin is, but usually it's mid-range no matter what it is, unless it's Murloc. And, yeah, so it could work out well for him. We'll see what happens in this particular match. However, this game is a bad matchup for the Zoo, definitely.
Yes, sorry, I was just quickly checking there. With the Shaman being banned, I think they probably all will be mid-range as well. Mm-hmm. Bad matchup for the Zoo. Yeah, there's not many bad matchups for Zoo. I don't think this is that bad, actually.
Well, Secret Paladin basically beats mid-range. It's just how it's the best thing that it does.
No,
right?
sure. I think the Zoo does have the tools to deal with it because of things like Egg, because of things like Owl.
Right.
And I think this is reasonably close to 50-50. I agree that the Paladin has the edge, but I think some builds of Zoo actually do okay against some builds of Secret Paladin. Mm-hmm. And that's one of these never-ending, especially on ladder, but it's one of these never-ending sort of cycles of people countering and recountering what they see a lot of. Just because it gets the board, I'll keep on about this thing by getting the board by turn 6, but it's really hard for a Secret Paladin to have the board by turn 6 against Zoo, which means that its Mysterious Challenger loses some of its effect.
So if you're RayAllen here, this is kind of a difficult decision. What do you... I guess you have to attack with the Flame Imp in case it's Noble Sacrifice, and you probably attack into the Knife Juggler because it's Redemption. It's much more annoying if it hits the Shielded Minibot, and if it's Avenged, then you're not too worried about it going on the Minibot. Obviously, Knife Juggler does more damage as well. So yeah, I think the play here is almost in every single situation you run the Flame Imp into the Knife Juggler first.
Yeah, and then you've got the decision to make. If it is Avenged, do you want to use the Owl or the PO or nothing to tidy up the mess that it makes?
This is really risky. Wow.
That's interesting. So is he now going to Owl this down?
I think he's going to Owl his Imp, his Flame Imp, maybe? Because it won't die. It'll turn back into a 3/2, which is kind of okay. And you know
he seems surprised. He must have had a read that was Noble Sacrifice.
Right.
Yeah, I think he had a strong read that was Noble Sacrifice. Maybe he's watched some previous games of LovelyChook and knows that that's a situation where he likes to play the Noble Sacrifice. But most Paladin decks just play the Secret anyway now and say, go ahead, guess. Exactly. For this reason, right? For this exact reason.
Yeah, the bot. Basically, the bot playing up the Secret, right? Like, how can they play Secret Paladin? It's so difficult to pick the Secret. No, you just bluff.
Yeah, exactly. You just bluff, and worst case, you make a mistake if you're a bot, so be it.
By the way, bluff.
Yeah, exactly. You just bluff, and worst case, you make a mistake if you're a bot, so be it.
By the way, pretty big, miss of the knife there in the prior turn. If that had hit the Shielded Mini bot, it would have been already dead by now. So definitely a big situation there. And unfortunate for RayAllen, gets the Imp Gang boss after tapping. If he had gotten before, it might have been quite a bit better.
Yeah, I think looking at what's happened, he's run fairly unluckily over this turn, and he's still not in a bad spot. So I think his line actually worked quite well for him, as an idea at least.
Right, but when this Mysterious Challenger comes up, is it still going to be a good situation for RayAllen? I mean, I just feel like LovelyChook, he saw a slow turn from RayAllen. I would just kill off this Abusive Sergeant, play out your Haunted Creeper, yeah. But that's going to be the case, looks like. I feel like you want as much stuff on the board right before you play your Mysterious Challenger.
I do agree, yeah. I think that's exactly what I like to do, is just get the board there, because it just makes just little things like you don't always want your challenger buffed. Zoo does possibly run BGH at times, depending on the exact build and so on.
Ooh. Rolls a 4 and a Succubus comes out, so things worked out, I suppose.
I guess, yeah, I'd rather have the 4 imps against Paladin, but like you say, the 4/3 is a pretty good compensation there.
Right, so if it was 2 imps, but a Captain's Parrot came out, that can be a bit awkward there as well. So I wonder if you just hit the face here if you're LovelyChook. And there's no real reason to deal with these 1/1s. One of them's going to get buffed if there is going to be a buff anyway, so you might as well just hit the face.
Yeah, I think you hit face. Denying Warlock cards is pretty important, so he's looking at the end turn button there. What do you think of that? What's he expecting? Given that next turn is looking like sort of Coghammer Spiders go.
Right. Yeah, true. Maybe he's thinking about just hitting the face with this True Silver. But yeah, you might need this True Silver to kill something, so it's actually a pretty kind of tough decision, I would say.
But as it happens, the Imp Gang boss is there, which would be a perfect target, right?
Right, exactly.
But from what we can see from this side, I think that's the right decision to hit something with that face and make sure you get through your weapon charge. There's nothing worse than dying with removal in your hand or with a weapon in your hand. Especially against Zoo, where you kind of have to use all your stuff, because otherwise it just keeps coming at you.
Alright, so we see the Imp King, or excuse me, obviously the Imp King is already in the hand of RayAllen, but he picks up the Implosion, which he could use right now. This event is going to be pretty interesting. Also, I don't think we know yet if it's Competitive Spirit or if it's Repentance. I think it is Repentance, because we saw last game that the Lothar got Repentance.
Yes, it did. And I mean, they can be both, but...
And this is why this matchup can get a bit tricky, right? You get into this spot, and how do you really come back? Rolls the 3, which is good for him. 3 into 4 obviously is nice, but you're taking a ton of damage on the backswing. On top of that, now we see this Keeper of Aldamon. You can get a Cog Hammer. Just, I don't think it's looking very good for RayAllen at all.
No, I agree. You've got to have a better board than that going into the Mysterious Challenger turn as the Zoo. One of the reasons I think it's closer than you think it is, I think... is the turns where you don't get the Mysterious Challenger, the Zoo can just run you over sometimes as Paladin.
Right.
Obviously you get the challenger. I don't know what percentage. I'm going to pick a number out of my backside, but something like 60-70% of the time, even though it feels like 105.
Yeah, the people who don't get Mysterious Challenger are not very good players, right? No.
That's true, right? They shouldn't be playing Secret Paladin or allowed near the class. But yeah, you do win a large percentage of the times they don't play the Mysterious Challenger against your Zoo.
Yeah, and LovelyChook here, he's going over all the possibilities, right? What are the pros and cons of what I'm doing here? And it looks like he's just going to start clearing out the board and probably hit the face with his Mysterious Challenger. It definitely makes sense. I mean, you're basically a board deck, and you get your damage in kind of incidentally. You're dominating the board so much that you have extra stuff to hit the face. Kind of like how Zoo used to run and still kind of runs to this day.
That's a shame. I was hoping that he didn't have lethal on board here because I wanted to see if RayAllen would mind games it and just play boom and just say, you messed this up last time. Here you go.
I'm pretty sure. Here, the thing is, unless you're kind of a real character, which I suppose RayAllen is to a certain extent, but this is his first real big tournament, his first real big finish. So I will say, having been in that booth, you don't think about games, right? You're just, unless you really have the game in hand, like that one time Firebat, he was BMing me the entire time. But at this point, you're just...
What a play there, by the way.
Yeah, that was really nice for him to stay alive, but he's still dead, I believe.
Yeah, he's probably going to die, but he worked out a line there that gave him a 1 in 3 chance of buying some time.
Right.
And it works both ways, right? If you can buy some time in these situations, sometimes things might cut your way. I think this one's too clear cut, but...
So let's see what this knife lands. Really good knife hit there. I wonder if you throw away your... Yeah, you probably throw away your Mysterious Challenger. Just because Zoo doesn't have AoE, kind of famously. You can't really deal with this. Although, I mean, you're not going to be able to deal with a Mysterious
It's one of those
Challenger
situations where it doesn't matter, but I'd rather have the 2 guys rather than the 1, just in case there's something crazy comes out.
I guess the one crazy thing that could come out would be something like a random Hellfire tech, right? So maybe that's what he's thinking. It's almost impossible to kill that 6/6. It doesn't really matter too much.
But it could be a random Soulfire tech or something, I mean...
Right. Anyway, LovelyChook takes that game. He evens the series 1-1. Not too surprising. I mean, it was really nice for RayAllen to get the first game there with the Hunter, but LovelyChook was eventually going to get a game with the mid-range Paladin, with the Secret Paladin, because of the fact that RayAllen is running all mid-range. So that was an inevitability, and we'll see how the rest of LovelyChook can handle what the strategy is from RayAllen, which is a lot of mid-range decks. Also, LovelyChook, by the way, could be running basically the same thing from here on out, because he too has Warlock and Druid.
It's really weird, because in Conquest it's usually a guessing game what you play, but I've got a feeling they both almost have to play their Zoos here, or their Warlocks here.
Right.
Because you don't want to run your Druid into the Warlock.
Exactly. We actually... it was kind of a dark moment in the group stages when it was Paladin and Druid versus Paladin and Druid, and Arthur brought out the Druid, and I was thinking, how do you? Suffice to say, he lost, but it was kind of a dark
it's
moment.
really rare that in Conquest there is an obvious decision, but this is one for me.
Exactly.
As we see that it is Reno, and it looks like it's combo Reno.
Right, yeah, with that Faces in hand, that definitely gives...
And it might not be Reno, but I mean, there's a Twisting Nether, so it's Reno.
Yeah, so Twisting Nether, Hellfire, Faceless, these are all hallmarks of the OTK Reno format. And this is going to be a bit of an uphill battle for RayAllen here.
Yeah, this is a matchup I am not particularly familiar with, but I just assume that the large amounts of removal and the fact you've still got the hero power to keep up with the Zoo means you're pretty struggling as Zoo.
Yep, that's pretty much spot on. That's how the matchup goes.
And with Hellfire in hand, he can just afford to tap away here?
Kind of. This is actually very smart here by RayAllen. A lot of players might not do this, but RayAllen's realizing that this could be Reno. What you want to do against a control deck, or it depends on what kind of control deck they are, right? What kind of removal they have, but in particular against control Warlocks, as the Zoo, you want to put the damage on the board first, and then the sticky stuff on the board second. Or third, whenever you think that some sort of AoE is coming. You want to do the damage. If you just play Egg and Hana Creeper, your opponent's not going to care. They're just going to tap, and then you're only doing 1 damage to them anyway. So you're not actually getting anything done. Yeah, it's hard to kill, but they don't care. They don't need to kill it. So this is very smart by RayAllen, just putting as much damage on the board as possible right now. And then, this next turn, I expect to see something sticky hit the field.
Because something that isn't obvious about Reno Lock is actually it's not really got that much healing. It is a removal deck first, and then a healing deck sort of second. And the removal buys you the time to get your healing, not the other way around.
Right, and if you're going to, if you're going to kill the Reno, eventually you're gonna have to do damage twice over. So if you're gonna do damage, you have to do it early and often, right? So gonna be the out egg here, and wow,
that's
big
exactly
hit.
as you described.
Yeah, big hit here, and yeah, going to be. I mean, LovelyChook in a bit of trouble here. He could just go for the Hellfire. He will be taking 6 damage off the board if he does so. Well, not
he
6
may
damage. Sorry.
have to play the Shredder so that he can Hellfire into the egg, and just take his chance.
Shredder is very risky. You could just die here. Let's see. We have 7 damage on the board. I guess 8 is pretty hard to do, especially with 4 mana. So yeah, I guess you do the Shredder here. You could do the Shredder here. The thing is, you don't have Reno in hand.
Not that good, yeah.
Yeah, the one thing, this would be definitely a different game if you have Reno in hand. Having Reno in hand versus not having Reno in hand is huge, because right here, LovelyChook doesn't know when he's going to draw healing or a taunt. So he has to aggressively clear the board because he might just die. But if you have Reno in hand or something like a Molten Giant plus taunt, then you can play so much more risky and have that comeback potential.
And this is actually looking at dying on turn 6, so there'll be things happen. He'll be able to power overwhelming that Shredder and Hellfire and kill everything, but then he's going to be on like no life.
Right, and this is going to be huge. Hits for 3, it's very good. None of the knives are going to hit the 2-drop, unfortunately, for RayAllen's sake. And what is this thing called?
That actually hurts you, by the way.
Yeah, it does. It hurts.
Actually buffs your hero power to kill you more.
You can see the hero power sparkling, which is not a good sparkle if you're LovelyChook. It actually hurts you more.
Because for those who don't know, the card says your hero power does 1 more damage, and the Warlock power damages yourself, and it does count. You now take 3 if you ever need to tap, just in case he wasn't in enough trouble.
If you're RayAllen here, do you go for the yellow bust your egg and see if the knife hits it?
I think he's thinking, how do I lose here if I trade? Like, if I just protect my egg, if I protect my board from AoE with that egg.
Well, like, the way he loses, right, is you.
I think.
He's actually trade. Yeah, there could have been a kill on the egg, followed by a Hellfire into a ping, which would have cleared the board. And if RayAllen didn't have a way to kill his opponent, then you could see a Reno on the following turn, which would be disastrous.
He would have power overwhelming his 3/2 and then played Hellfire and then killed the 4/4 with the 3/2. That would have been a board clear.
Yeah, well, the point is many ways to clear the board here for LovelyChook. So, and the following turn, he could have gone for the Reno Jackson. I mean, from the vantage point of RayAllen, right? So he kind of had to do that.
And RayAllen still has lethal because he has the Defender in hand, so he could afford to do that.
Not right now, however, but he does get double Peddler, which is pretty huge. He could.
There's every chance he just draws into 2 sources of damage here, right?
Ooh, no damage here though to be seen. Just gonna go for the Secret Keeper to get, most likely for the Secret Keeper, just for the health. The Murloc doesn't
now
really
he's
do
not
anything.
going to go for the second Peddler because there's no reason to, as the most damage you can get from it is 4, and he needed 5.
Wow, 5% chance for Reno Jackson here. Can he draw it? Does not draw it. And I think this is just over for LovelyChook. That
is not what he wants. Obviously you never want to lose, but now he's got to face Druid with this.
Right.
And yeah, RayAllen looking like it's going to go 2-1. I can't see any way out. Perhaps there is.
Right, he just doesn't have enough mana for anything, right? He can't even defend or anything up. I guess the one thing he can do is tap into a Molten Giant. I think that's the one thing he can do, just to try to get something on the board, but that's not going to be it. And LovelyChook is going to fall. Very well played by RayAllen. Not too poorly played by LovelyChook. There really wasn't much to do there, but RayAllen showing that he knows that matchup, right? You put the damage on the board first, you put the sticky stuff second, you put the pressure on your opponent before they have ability to draw into their answers, and he was able to take the game.
Yeah, and a lot of people would have lost that game by not just going straight out there with that Knife Juggler, getting out the damage, and just, like you say, you got the extra sort of 6 to 10 points before LovelyChook even started, and that made all the difference there. Just give him no time to draw into stuff. If he had done it the other way around, the Hellfire would have been an easy play, buy some time, then he'd be able to Siphon Soul the 4/4, suddenly he's on 12 life.
Well, if he did it the other way, right? If he went for a coin egg, which you see people do sometimes, like, oh, he's not going to be able to kill this, right? You coin egg, and then you see the Reno just say, okay, tap, 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 tap. I'm fine. I'm not taking any damage. Things are good.
Yeah, he just draws an extra 3 or 4 cards, and yeah, the game would have been very, very different. So pretty instructive game there. And again, backing up what we've said right from the start of the cast, that RayAllen is just a good Hearthstone player.
Exactly.
And he's going to do things at some points.
Could it be this tournament?
I would love it to be in this tournament. I must admit, having cast the guy through the Team Story League, I think he's one of the guys he's got some personality about him. He's a great player. I'd like to see him win this.
Right.
Not that I'm biased as a caster, of course. I like them all to win. But.
Right. Well, we are going into this game number 4, match point for RayAllen. Can he make it to the round of 4 to face off against Zhongbo? Basically, two players with, basically Cinderella stories for both players here, and going to be this Druid Mirror. And RayAllen, what do you keep out of? Is he keeping that whole hand? That's kind of surprising to me. I suppose what you can do, since you have the card draw with your minion, it makes it a bit more palatable to keep double ramp.
Yeah, I think that's okay, especially if it pans out nicely for your turn 3, right? It just all adds up to the right stuff. So, and then if you draw into something like he has with Sylvanas, you actually get a really good curve out of it. What do you think of Sylvanas in Druid? I know it's not that rare.
It can just cause so many problems for your opponent. If they don't have lethal coming up soon, they have to deal with it. And if they do try to, force the issue and just hit the face, then you can basically set it up so your Sylvanas gets the perfect take. And almost everything in Druid is very good to take, right? They're all mid-range minions, so it just can, put a wrench in your opponent's plan. And second wild growth, I don't think that's what RayAllen wanted to see here.
And that's the downside when you do keep that double ramp hand. You do run the risk of just not drawing some stuff. And like you say, because he's got Azure Drake, it's a risk he felt was okay to take. Interesting, I've moaned about the aspirants in the Druid a couple of times when I've cast, but we haven't seen much Warrior at all, have we, in this tournament?
We've seen it here and there. Not really Control Warrior, it's been more the Patron Warrior.
Yeah. So...
But if you're RayAllen here, I think you go for the Innervate into Sylvanas, because no one keeps Keeper in their opening hand in Druid Mirror.
That's a really good point, yes you do. And then you've got turn 5, draw a card, and then turn 6 you see where you're standing, and yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
By the way, on the other hand, LovelyChook, very, very good risk he took by coining into the Darnassus on turn 1, knowing that, again, you don't keep Wrath in your opening hand in the Druid Mirror, so he goes for that, and then he's able to play a Shade out. He could have gone for Raven Idol turn 1, but this ended up being a bit better.
Yeah, and Raven Idol is something that you don't want to play on turn 1 if you can help it, because it has 2 modes, and the spell mode is the one you want to take. But if you get a hand that develops like the one he's got, sometimes it is just better to hit a minion. And so the longer you can leave that decision, the better the card is for you, because you get to draw, unless you get off a junk.
Are we going on an adventure? Are we questing?
Yeah, that might actually be okay here, right?
I think
it has to be dealt with.
I think you just do it. I think you just you trade both your minions in and go for... Oh, actually, Hungry... Wait, can that be played this turn? It can, actually. So yeah, you go for the Hungry Dragon, actually. Not the Hungry Dragon, what's it called?
Yeah, the Volcanic Drake.
Volcanic Drake, there you go. So you can go for the Volcanic Drake this turn. And by the way, this was fixed. They used to have it so that the Darnassus, when you killed it off during your turn, you actually lost the mana crystal and couldn't play anything out. But they fixed it. No. They fixed it so that obviously it's going to you lose the empty mana crystal. So able to play the Volcanic Drake there.
I actually didn't know that, and I've been playing around it for some time. Embarrassed to admit live on stream that I've been still playing around the non-fixed version. Yeah. What a genius. So, well, 6 mana for RayAllen now, and one thing that has happened for him here, I mean, he's been, LovelyChook's had a good draw, and RayAllen's curve, I think his plan worked out. It's just he's run into a better draw almost. How do you plan here?
I think you just charge your Druid of the Claw into this Drake, because if you put it into taunt form, then the best case scenario is it trades anyway, right? The worst case scenario is your opponent has a better way to deal with it. So I think you just have to trade this Druid of the Claw into the Drake.
And we're going to see a bit of a wet noodle fight if he does do that. It's like we're down to just, hey, I've got some guys that I can buff. No,
well, yeah, wet noodle, but wet noodle followed by Super Saiyan 3 into double combos for both players. So.
Yeah, right. It's like that's interesting for RayAllen. He's going for the.
That is such a good draw for LovelyChook here. Sorry to cut you off, but
no, I was just looking. He went for the Wild Growth there, knowing that next turn he can play Charge and Savage Roar, which is a really interesting play for me there.
Right.
Because the Wild Growth did put him into this position where, if LovelyChook sort of stumbled, which he didn't, then RayAllen would have been able to do a pretty sweet clear.
Right.
Unfortunately,
drawing Azure Drake is probably one of the best cards you can get there for LovelyChook. LovelyChook channeling his inner Brian Kibler with the double dragons on the field there. And
is it just double Savage Draw here? No, surely not.
Just going to put the Druidic Claw on the field. I wonder if you just charge and trade in. Probably, yeah, you have to be a big greedy here and hope your opponent doesn't have anything to deal with this. Yeah. Dr. Boom is nice, though.
Yeah, Dr. Boom off the top there means that LovelyChook can just not worry too much about having inevitability and protecting his hand, so he can kill this however he likes, knowing that he's got Dr. Boom back up. He will be curious what's going on, though. RayAllen playing that Wild Growth and obviously getting some value out of it, and LovelyChook did see the reason, I guess, but he will be just factoring in, does he have another big hitter, given that he needed a Wild Growth on turn 6, which is kind of late.
But what could you see, right? I mean, scenarios, I don't think you really care too much. You've already seen one Savage Roar, so you're not going to die to any double combo shenanigans. By the way, this was a pretty tough turn if you're LovelyChook, right? Because do you put your Keeper out there, or do you just clear with the the Force of Nature and keep your Drake on the board? You can get an extra 4 damage to face if you do that, or actually 3 damage to face, which maybe you can finish out the game anyway, but he figures if his opponent's at 14 right now, I can probably take this game using combo.
Yeah. And he knows that RayAllen has to deal with the boom and the bots first, which is kind of a slow version of combo in its own right. And then if he deals with that, he's going to have a turn where he can just play some stuff, and then turn 9 he'll have combo set up. So I think he just figures that this lot's going to get through for some sort of damage. Mm-hmm. Very worst, putting RayAllen below 14.
Right.
And we see that.
Yeah, we see the Black Knight. I think we'll talk about it in the next game, as
sure.
This one is looking like it's about to end. Unfortunately, Black Knight is not Big Game Hunter right now in this situation. I want to go way, way, way back, though, with LovelyChook going for the minion of the Raven Idol. I think that was a very smart choice, and we've seen people, for instance, like Love Tomorrow, go straight for the spell every single time, no matter what the situation. Yeah. And this is one of those situations where if he went for the spell, he might have just been in a really bad spot. Instead, got a good minion out of it and was able to really push damage this game.
Yeah, and going even further back from there, go back to turn 1 where he took the chance with the Aspirant. That protected the Raven Idol, so he got more information when he did cast it that he knew he needed that minion.
Exactly.
So right back to turn 1, you can plot that some people are playing on ladder like, oh, my opponent got really lucky, he Raven Idoled into a 3-drop on turn 4 or whatever. Mm-hmm. That came about by a decision he made on turn 1.
Exactly.
When a lot of people would have just cast Raven Idol, get a swipe, carry on.
And we're seeing that LovelyChook is actually just being very impressive in this tournament, and kind of a 180 from what we saw at Hearthstone Team Story, right? He just really knows how to play this game, and this is just a battle of really smart players here. Unfortunately, this game right here is going to go to LovelyChook pretty overwhelmingly, has the combo in hand. Really pretty decent turn that last turn, by the way, going with the Charge Druidic Claw, realizing that he has combo in hand right here. This is going to be the game for LovelyChook. Very, very well played. And we're going to go to a game 5 where that Black Knight could be pretty useful.
And it's not been seen.
Exactly.
RayAllen's smart enough to not do anything with that Black Knight there. No need to throw it out there.
Right.
And like you say, LovelyChook, a different player in this league, in this event. And you do see some players. You mentioned Life Coach earlier. I was going to mention him from a slightly different angle as well. Some players like to put a lot of repetitions into the same deck before they really get strong. And then they become really strong. Learn a deck on a different level to other players. And until they do that, they may be slightly weaker than other players at that deck. And maybe just being thrown into a team environment just doesn't suit LovelyChook. Maybe he needs those repetitions with decks he knows he's going to play. And then, he's played that incredibly well. So they both have, to be fair, this match.
Yeah, exactly. This is just, I'm getting nerd chills watching this game. It's absolutely amazing how well both these players are playing. And I mean, I haven't really held back too many punches for some of these players, right? Some of these players, I'll just give it to them. You're like, what are you doing? Why are you making this play? But definitely in this particular match, both of these players are playing extremely well. Definitely looking forward to this. And the loss from LovelyChook in the third game there, the one that RayAllen played really well with his Zoo, is really looming large here now that we're going into this game.
So last time I spoke to you here, I was saying I think Druid's big favourite in this, and you were saying you're not sure, not because you don't agree, but because the stats don't seem to be panning out that way. A little bit like the old Druid versus Patron used to be. How do you see it now? Have you got any new opinions on it?
I'm leaning more towards Druid than I used to, just because I've seen, well, first of all, I've seen more Druids take the game, and you just kind of see it play out, right? All these mid-range minions that the Warlock just can't deal with. The removal doesn't really suit it very well. As we see the Twisting the Other Hand, though, that could be very, very important later in the game, but not right now. You don't really want it on turn 1. But
so it's starting to fall more in line with the theory crafting, where Druid makes sense that it wins. And look at this hand from RayAllen. Ugh.
Right. Well, there's the Black Knight, so that could be useful in the future. So, like you mentioned before, very important to hold the Black Knight, because we could see something like a Molten Giant that's taunted that could be basically game-losing, potentially, for LovelyChook. The other thing I want to talk about with the Black Knight is that it really reinforces that RayAllen strategy, which is just go with all mid-range decks, and if there's mid-range decks in my opponent's lineup, then I just kill them. For instance, Zoo, sometimes they taunt up big minions. Druid obviously has, Druid's a Claw and stuff like that you can Black Knight. So definitely wants to win the mid-range mirrors, and then from there you can take out, whatever control decks or even some aggro decks that are left over.
Yeah, and just going back to something else you said earlier about speed of play, they've both slowed down now they're comfortable. But LovelyChook has played, again, going back to the team, just the contrast with the team story thing fascinates me. He's really slowed down in this event. In the team story league, a couple of times we've seen him just fire games out, and I'm sure he cared greatly about them, but he almost like nonchalant, oh, let's just play this game of Hearthstone. And then now here he's really like super focused, because he's looking presumably at a slightly deeper level as well. He's just far more comfortable in his surroundings and everything.
Right. Well, in this particular game, it's actually going okay for LovelyChook. He was able to get those 2 minions out and force his opponent to deal with them. And RayAllen had that double wild growth, but has nothing really to play except for Sylvanas, which might, just run into something like this Thaurissan. But, RayAllen hasn't really been able to put on that much pressure, although the pressure might start hitting the fan right now.
Yeah, he's going to have something to do at least. He's been pretty unfortunate that he hasn't drawn like an Ancient of Law in either game that we've seen so far as well. As we see Faceless being used, so RayAllen now knows exactly what this composition is going to be.
Right. Obviously, that Zoo game ended so quickly that he had no idea what he was playing against. He probably ascertained that it was the Reno. But seeing that Faceless tells him that this is not only OTK, but that the Faceless is gone, so he's not really going to die from anything crazy.
Yeah, so he can now afford to at least play fairly carefully. Obviously, you don't play carefully against Reno, like you said earlier. To some degree, you have to kill the guy, but there's a balance here you have to find, isn't there? You have to do enough damage to force the guy to use his Reno without actually burning all your damage up to finish him off later.
Well, the nice thing about Druid is doing enough damage to Reno means getting them down to 20 and having 1 4 attack creature on the board.
Yeah, which can be just stealthed, right?
Exactly.
So that's helpful. And Jiraxis is really awkward, right, in this matchup. He's not a guy you're going to play anytime soon. I assume you just throw us down here. Your hand's so powerful. You don't need him for the combo anymore with the Faces gone.
Exactly. Yeah, you just get it for the utility out here. A lot of matchups where you're fighting for tempo, you need the Thaurissan for utility rather than going for a huge combo. Typically, you play out the Thaurissan for the combo in matchups where you have more time, i.e. against a control deck.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you do get really greedy with it and save it for all your combo cards. I just see RayAllen now. He knows he can afford to take a bit of damage to face, so not scared at all to just tidy that thing up. And it has to die, so yeah, pretty easy looking turn. And like this is what you say about the 20, right? He's actually threatening lethal next turn from nowhere here.
Exactly.
For no particular reason, so...
Ooh, so I think we're going to see this Demon Wrath plus Mortal Coil and Healbot. Oh, he's going to play the Healbot first in case there's some sort of nearby Weblord. That's basically the only thing that matters here. The Mana Wraith.
Because
actually, the Mana Wraith would make it.
So...
Yeah, the Mana Wraith would make a difference as well. So yeah.
Yeah, Doomsayer would be obviously terminal there. Not terminal there, sorry, where the Weblord would. So definitely a good idea to cast that first, playing around 2 or 3% chance.
Innervate is very, very bad here. And you really just can't play out, tempo Black Knight. You'd rather just, sit there. Obviously, you play out this Harrison, but going forward, RayAllen's really going to need to pick up some sort of minion. Obviously, the best possible minion is that Ancient of Lore, but he needs something going forward.
Of course, he does now have the opportunity to double combo at some point, but he needs his opponent to be on a low life total for that. Or, I mean, next turn could be a case. Yeah, LovelyChook probably aware that bad things can happen if this stays up. Well, he is aware, obviously.
Okay, this is actually huge right here.
He's not.
It's for 3. So
if RayAllen top decks Savage Raw, is that game?
Yes, it would be game. It's more than 30. All right, Wrath picked up here, which isn't the worst. He can start clearing off some of this board. I imagine you just hit the Drake here with 1, and you can use your hero power plus the Harrison to kill it off. And obviously your turn might change depending on what you draw here, but you really just need a draw. And I feel like you're not close enough to killing. If you use the Wrath, obviously you can't double combo. So yeah, you just kill off this Drake here.
And he knows how close he is. Or, it probably feels closer than it is, right? You're 1 in 20 or whatever cards left in the deck to pick it up anyway. But there's always that feeling of I'm going to top deck this and win the easy way.
Well, he could top deck something like an Ancient of Lore, and then probably use the Innervate to kill off the Drake anyway, so that your Ancient of Lore is uncontested. Yeah,
you could top deck a Swipe as well, which would be fine.
But this game is actually looking pretty good for LovelyChook, because if any time he's in trouble, he can Twisting Nether for 7, he can Sylvanas Shadow Flame for 8, which is even better because you take your opponent's big minion. Oh my god, there it is. Okay, there's double combo. He's actually just going to hit the face here. And what does LovelyChook deal with? How does LovelyChook deal with this?
I don't know. Do you think he played for that, knowing that he was in trouble, and just thought, you know what,
right?
This is just too slow playing off this Drake. I'm just going to go for it and get lucky, because he didn't look comfortable with the play at all, and I think he just decided that taking the time to kill the Drake just wasn't worth it.
Yeah, he just wasn't. I mean, I just mentioned, right, that LovelyChook had a pretty good hand, and even if he doesn't have that hand, oh, there is a defender of Argus, but
he's got the Black Knight. If he buffs the 4/7, this could be really nasty for him.
But he has to, or else he's dead. So
he can buff the 1/1s, right?
I suppose. Right, we could see the Owl come to the field and that getting buffed because you maybe feel like your opponent has Black Knight. Couldn't LovelyChook think that there's a Black Knight in the hand? It would make sense.
This would be amazing, right?
Ooh, no, he doesn't go for it though. Just wants the Owl on the board for that.
I mean, that's the play I would make. Okay, not knowing the situation, but it would have been amazing had he divined it and gone, okay, get through this. And actually, there is a reason that he could have done that as well, because if there's a silence in hand here for RayAllen, it sort of gets double duty if he gets to silence the Twilight Drake.
Mm-hmm.
It gets to get rid of the taunt and make it smaller at the same time. So there would have been reasons he could have buffed the other two guys. Anyway, the Black Knight is going to keep RayAllen in with a shout here. Now he's got to work out how greedy he wants to be. He does have the option to just Savage Roar to clear this 2/2.
Well, if he Savage Roars to clear the 2/2, he's actually dead. He needs the hero power because there's 6 damage on board, and then there's 7 in the hand from LovelyChook here because of Jiraxis and Power Overwhelming.
Yeah, so RayAllen has managed. I don't know if he's been hit more than once or twice in this whole game. He's got down to 13 life, sort of sneakily beating himself up as he goes. And so,
well, he hasn't really had the board, is the thing, right? So half this game, he really hasn't really had the board. He's thinking about maybe if he facing this 2 damage, he's dead. Could be an Arcane Golem picked up here, something of that nature. Nope, it's going to be the Brand Bronzebeard. No battle cries in hand other than Jiraxis, which doesn't do anything when you replace your hero power again. There's an interesting animation, but that's all. But what do you do here for your LovelyChook?
Do you think he would smell the double combo or not? It's really hard to put someone double combo, but that Wrath was a really strange play. From his side, that is.
Right.
Play was fine, obviously. And what can you even do? So this is the play that just makes sense, right? You just fill up the board and play Hearthstone.
Right, but he's still not dead, because one thing, you think that, it's 2 damage from your hero power, and so, it's 22, goes in the 20. No, it's actually 4 damage from your hero power, so he doesn't actually have lethal through this.
And RayAllen's getting really frustrated, sort of moving around his chair like, I know I've got lethal, but why is that thing got taunt? What do you do for RayAllen here? Do you just...
You could just combo clear, and then you have Lore and Boom to back you up, which is pretty good.
And you can top deck your other force as well next go.
Right. I mean, the problem with combo clear, however, though, is you're not actually clearing. You're basically just clearing the Brand, the Sylvanas, and the Imp. So that's an issue.
That's not so bad. I guess there's only... If Brand's gone, and you've seen the Faces has gone, There's not that. Has the Arcane Golem gone as well, or was that last game?
No, the Arcane Golem is still in the deck of
So
LovelyChook.
he doesn't want to go too low. He's going to have to do something because there's animations and stuff to do here.
Well, yeah, if you go for the combo clear here, you take 2 damage on you, but you've already seen power overwhelming. So, oh, he's gonna go for the double combo. Wow. Okay, he needs to hurry though. What is his decision here? He looks like he's just.
I assume he's gone for some sort of clear, but
yeah,
I don't know if he's going to get this off in time.
I think he got it off in time. I mean, the
because he's now relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, you have to attack the Sylvanas last, or else it's an unmitigated disaster, right?
So he's going to rely on his Ancient of Law to win him this game, I think. Because now LovelyChook can do what he likes.
LovelyChook just wins the game, doesn't he? He plays Jiraxis, gets a 6/6 on the board, and your opponent just used double combo. The only thing you can face right now is Force of Nature. You start getting 6/6 out. You have worst case scenario. You have Twisting Nether. You probably can clear almost any board with Hero Power plus Shadow Flame. You have Loatheb to lock him down. I think LovelyChook, if he plays Jiraxis and just starts the 6/6 train, he's going to win this game.
Yeah, I think he's seen it as well. He seems to be going through his mind like, how do I die? How do I die? But no, he hasn't gone for it. He just seems to be sort of looking skyward. Like that's usually a sign of somebody plotting a course. And he's like, what could actually beat me here? Now that the combo's gone, is there something stupid that I'm missing?
Arcane Golem plus.
Yeah, you start imagining cards that have never been played in Druid or were last seen in beta or something.
I guess Shrink was talking about random Leroy Jenkins in Druid, but looks like LovelyChook has probably done this. I mean, he has a lot of damage here. Obviously, the Druid Claw or a heal from the Ancient of Lore would be saving off lethal if you're RayAllen. But it's just a really uphill battle right now, and does go for the heal here. This is probably why we saw LovelyChook go for this play, is because he wanted something on the board to deal with whatever's on the board once he Jiraxis. But then he already had a 6/6 anyway.
6/6s deal with a lot of things. Yeah, maybe he was scared of Boom. Boom would have been kind of messy for him. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, LovelyChook 1 damage off lethal, by the way. So, never lucky. Yeah, I think you just play... I just don't see how you can not play Jiraxis here.
Let's see.
Last turn makes sense.
The only thing that makes me think he might not, no, he's going to go for it, is the fact that his last turn was kind of defensive.
Well,
right?
Yeah, but last turn he had Loatheb, right? He didn't play... Yeah. You had the Loatheb there to actually get something on the board, something substantial, but, I mean, right now you have to tap into it, which is kind of bad because you don't get to play the 6/6, and this is the beginning of the end for RayAllen.
Yeah, and LovelyChook's played this really well. We've sort of paid attention more to RayAllen's side because he had that double combo in hand, and LovelyChook survived that, and that's a combination of, making sure you keep the board combined with some being really careful, which you have to do against Druid.
Right, and RayAllen has to play the Druid Claw in taunt form, or else he dies. So that's step number 1. And but how do you?
Kind of easy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the 6/6 just takes care of it. And in fact, I don't think there's no way for him to live right now because LovelyChook, he can play a Hero Power for 2 mana. By the way, that's OP. What is Blizzard thinking? No, so he can play Hero Power, get a 6/6, Shadow Flame that, and he has Dark Bomb. He has more than enough damage to kill. So this is going to be it. RayAllen's just trying to see if he can somehow, steal this game somehow with maybe a Force Nature or something like that. But we know that no matter what he does, he's going to lose here.
And I do like this from players, by the way. It's really good to see somebody trying to find a way. Look, I've probably lost, but let's make sure I've lost. When these guys hit the concede button without even thinking about it, it's like one day they're going to regret it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, LovelyChook looks like he's going to progress to set up a very interesting-looking semi-final for me.
Exactly. Yeah, LovelyChook, he's keeping his run alive. He is the defending champion, and he has not gone out yet. Very, very impressive by him. Obviously not a fluke from last year. I mean, that's what we're thinking, right? We saw him at Hearthstone Team Store. We saw him, we're thinking, he's not that great. It must have been a fluke. But he's back here again. He's in the top 4. He's facing off against Zhangbo. He's the more accomplished player of the two. He's a favorite to go to the finals. I mean, Zhangbo, we've seen that he's played very well up to this point, but pretty crazy to see here from LovelyChook.
Yeah, it's exciting to see when a player, as a caster, you see a lot of Hearthstone, you end up making judgments of how you think people are, and you see a guy who just, we'd underrated him, don't mind admitting it, and he just comes out and says, no guys, you're wrong, I can do this stuff, and we see him back in the